What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. In this week's edition of Reactor Hunt, which runs from the 20th of August until the 26th of August, I'll be covering some good places where you can farm for reactors for Jayber, Valby, Gley and Sharen. Now, generally speaking, you can farm for reactors anywhere on the map, and of course you can see whichever reactor choice and combination that you're looking for by simply filling in exactly the specification of, like, let's say for example you're looking for something for bunny. You'll go, okay cool, I want electric and I want singular, and then you'll have two choices available. However, of course, in the game there are areas which are a lot better to farm, since there's more enemies that spawn in a shorter amount of time or something like that, which means a higher yield. And the idea of this video, of course, is to highlight those specific areas when they are available week by week as this cycles. Now, first thing that we have to do is we have to look at every single descendant and figure out what is the best reactor combination for them, which you can see on screen here right now. Having this information in hand allows us to then create like a little view where we can actually combine certain descendants together, meaning, like, for example, if we're trying to farm for a fire tech reactor, then we are covering Lepic, but we are also covering Isomo, for example. Likewise, if we're farming for a materialized singularity reactor, which is non-attribute singular, then we are covering Enzo, Gley and Eugene. So this allows us to figure out exactly which combo that we want to look for, and then we can start digging through the detail and figuring out if there's an optimal place for us to grind this week, which I've already done for you. One last thing before we actually dive into the detail: of course, every single reactor in the game that drops also drops with 2 randomized substats which roll from a pool. Now, these substats can be anything like crit rate up, crit damage, cooldown reduction, additional damage to Colossus, additional elemental damage, and you should be using these substats to address holes in your build or basically boost its strength. Like, for example, if you lack in cooldown reduction, you should absolutely get that in there, and you could also, for instance, look for more crit hit or crit hit damage if your build is crit focused. That being said, generally speaking, the rule of thumb is this: if you want a reactor that you're going to be using to do void intercept bosses, you should absolutely have one of those rolls be additional damage to Colossus. It's just that good. And then in the case of you using reactors to do mobbing, you can of course not have that on there and have 2 other ones on there, like crit hit damage, crit hit rate, cooldown reduction, skill up, anything like that, additional elemental damage. That's pretty much it. More than that, you should be looking at what you're trying to do with your build, and if it's crit focused, then that should be something you're looking at. Whereas if, again, like I said, you are lacking in a resource department, you should be looking at cooldown reduction or maybe even cost reduction. So starting us off with our first reactor hunt of the week, we're going to be looking at materialized phase reactors, which cover Jayber, Valby and Gley. So basically what we are going to do is we're going to go here and we're going to say non-attribute, since that is the elemental choice for Jayber, Valby and Gley. And then we want to pick dimensions, since those are the strongest skills that are usable by those 3 characters, and that's the kind of reactor that you want. Now, you'll see here that the classified area is available to us, and basically what we can do is we can go to the classified area in the sterile land and we can farm this mission over here called large nuclear reactor. This is a fairly straightforward mission. Essentially, you just go into the circular area and you have to hold the area while enemies attack you from 4 different positions, and you can basically just kill them either by using a bunny or even just shooting them. There's not that many enemies that come out, but you have a decent amount of reactors that drop from this activity, and it's highly repeatable and super easy to do. Plus it yields a fairly decent amount of XP, proficiency and Kuiper, as considering where it is in the game world. Now, that being said, the type of reactor that drops this week from there is special rounds. And this is really good, because that means that if you are the kind of person that wants to use Greg's reverse fate, since you recently fell in love with that, that can roll as a mounting option on the reactor this week from that area. Likely you can also get Secret Garden to come from this, because that is also a special rounds weapon. So if this is a gun that you like using on either one of those 3 characters, Jayber, Valby or Gley, then that's also an option for you. Now, just to show you a materialized, here we go, here it is. A materialized phase reactor has non-attribute and dimension on it, as I mentioned, and then of course the thing is you're just looking for the right mounting and the right selection of substats. Happy hunting. Then next up, I have some really good news for you if you are a Sharen fan. This week we don't have only one farm for Sharen, but two that can yield some really good reactors for her. Now, first things first, just an explanation about Sharen, and you can see that in the game, my Sharen, I'm actually using a materialized mechanics reactor. And that is because if you are building a weapon-based Sharen that uses like cloak to snipe and things like that, then your reactor choice doesn't necessarily matter all that much. The substats on the reactor actually matter far more. So you can see in this case here, I chose this because this has a yellow skill duration up on it, which makes my cloak last longer. However, if you are looking to down the line actually play a skill-based Sharen because maybe that becomes strong, it gets buffed or something like that, then what you are in actual fact looking for is you're looking for a tingling mixture reactor, meaning like you want something that's electric and you want something that's fusion. And the reason for that is these skills, so the sword as well as the 4 ability of Sharen, both are fusion skills. So both of them are electric fusion. So if you are looking to do a skill-based Sharen down the line, this is what you're going to need to do. So once again, if we go to the map and we check and we say, okay, cool, we want electric and we want fusion, we're going to see that we have 3 choices available here. 2 of these are really good for us. First of all, let's talk about impact rounds. So the repository. For this one, you will be going to Sterile Land, the repository over here, and then of course we have Kuiper Mine over here. Now, basically this mission means that you go in and you have some of these Kuiper mines to dismantle as soon as you activate the objective inside the mission. There's 7 of them in total. What you're going to do is you're not going to dismantle any of them. You're basically going to let the time run out, all 5 minutes, and you'll just spend your time in this little circle in this area killing all the enemies, and this is going to yield a massive amount of reactors for you to go through, and hopefully you can find something sexy in there. You'll let the timer run out to 5 minutes, fail the mission, and then you'll start again. Now, the one that's going to fall from there is a reactor that can be mounted in the impact bullet category. And that is really good for us because once again, if you want to use something like Descendants, that is going to be working with that, of course. And also if you're looking to use something like Blue Beetle or Perforator or Wave of Light or Peacemaker. But basically the point why we would maybe want to have one is because of Descendants. Descendants is a hand cannon that is super good, especially once you spend some time on this gun kitting it out, and it really puts in the damage because it has high crit damage and good weak point. I can just quickly highlight you my Descendants just so that you can see, just for comparison. And you can see that the stats on here are really good. We have almost a 85% chance to crit, and we have almost a 5 times multiplier on the crit. And you can unfortunately not see it behind my fat head, but maybe if I do, yeah, I just think that it's probably the weak point's also not going to be that great here. But yeah, it has almost a 2 times multiplier with weak point, and that's without me actually having maxed out as you can see, a weak point side and weak point inside, so that's still gonna get better. So if you're looking to run a Sharen with Descendants and you want it to be a fusion, then this is your week to do that. Now I mentioned 2 because there's also a second option for us. So just going back to this again and putting in our selection again, electric, and we want fusion, we'll see that we also have shipment base available. This is phenomenal news because shipment base is this area over here that has access to the fortress outskirts. Very famous little piece of farm here. Basically you go in and you activate all 4 of the pads. This works with any Descendant, but Bunny really shines here. You activate all 4 of these pads and then you just spend your time running in between the 4 pads, just soaking up the kills and picking up all of the reactors that fall out of them. You'll do this until all 4 pads have been drained, and then you'll simply abort the mission and then go again. And over time, this is going to yield you a massive amount of reactors, but also a huge amount of character XP, weapon XP, Kuiper, and gold. So just all in all, a really good farm. But the other reason why we are doing this is because this will drop reactors with a mounting in the high power category, aka the snipers of the game. So if you are looking to run a Sharen that uses either the Afterglow sniper or something like, where is my big boy other sniper? How am I not seeing it? I'm going blind. Piercing light. If you're looking to run one of those 2, and my personal favorite is the Afterglow, and you're looking to build a snipe Sharen that has a decent fusion reactor in as well, then this is definitely the week to hunt that down. Good luck. And then last but not least, if you're looking to build a farm set, so definitely something that I can highly advise people to do is to also look at building out a set of external components that have farm characteristics on them, farm substats. What I mean by this is you can have additional Kuiper and module drop rate, you can have additional consumable and character XP growth, you can have additional firearm proficiency and gold drop rate, and last but not least, you can have additional equipment and item acquisition, aka bigger pickup radius on these components. Now, this week you can hunt down a very nice roll on an auxiliary power one, and again we can just see this in action. We can go here and we can just choose auxiliary power, and you'll notice that this is in the abandoned zone. Once again, another super popular and famous farm. In the Echo Swamp, in the abandoned zone area, we can do environment contamination zone. Again, this can be done by any descendant, but a bunny absolutely shines here. I guarantee you, if you go this week to this area, there will be bunnies farming this. But the bottom line is this is a farm that you can complete with relative ease. Also, really high weapon and XP, character XP and weapon proficiency ratio for the amount of work that you're putting in. Huge amount of Kuiper, huge amount of gold. Just all in all, a very sexy farm. You can make anywhere between 6 to 8 million gold in an hour if you're not even putting in the work. And the bottom line is you can get some of these components to drop, and hopefully you can get one that has Kuiper and module drop rate increase on it, which is your farm roll for this item. Oftentimes this will also then roll with defense or something like that, and if you can get all 4 of these to roll on gold with, you know, legendary stats on, then you have yourselves a kick-ass farm set. And that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. Not a great week this week, not as bad as last week in terms of options for farming reactors. However, still not the best, because a lot of the really key characters or characters that are meta right now aren't necessarily represented in the choices that we can find reactors. Again, just as a caveat, I want to mention, of course, you can go farm the specific reactors for those other characters. They're just going to be from missions that potentially don't have as high an enemy density or a drop rate. And the idea of these videos is to highlight areas where you can really double down, spend a couple of hours, and just rake out a shitload of reactors. As always, feel free to in comments down below let me know and the rest of the people in the community if there's a farm that I've missed or an area that you are currently farming this week for your reactor of choice. This is something that I appreciate you guys sharing with the community, because as a community as a whole, we can always benefit from this kind of knowledge. Other than that, it's just super important to me that you have a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Till next video, fucking cheers.